Hey team, this is Liam from Lazarus Personal Training, where we are trying to promote a new life through movement. Yesterday I was filming a squat video, and as I was going through it I was explaining why we want to be squatting, what sort of assessments that we want to be doing, and then going through what that squat pattern is. And as I was doing it, something fell off. And then as I was editing it together, it suddenly struck me that there's tons of videos out there about how to squat correctly. I wasn't doing it enough justice in terms of what we actually want to be focusing into. And I also realised, what happens if we can't squat? What happens if you watch that video, you go, great, but I didn't pass that assessment? What's the step out of that? So this video is looking at what do we do when we don't pass an assessment, and what areas can we work on to make it better to hopefully achieve a full range of motion squat. The reason we want to squat is because a squat is a fundamental movement pattern. Pretty much all of us will have to sit down and stand up at some point through our day, and with that we need to be able to squat. It keeps our ankles in good range of motion, it keeps our knees healthy, it keeps our hips active, and just generally it's really useful to be able to squat to a good depth. If you have to bend over to pick something up, you will probably end up in a squat position. If you have to pick up your child or your grandchild, you will end up in a squat position. If you have to carry boxes around, most likely you will have to have squatted it up to move it. And just generally, if we're looking long term, and I'm talking when we're 70, 80, 90, if we have stronger bone density and muscle mass, if we take a fall, it's less likely to cause a break. And when you get up to that end and you have a break in those bones, it can be detrimental. So yes, we want to be strong and fit now, but we also want to be strong and fit when we're coming towards the back end of our life. That's pretty morbid, but genuinely, we need to be conscious of this stuff. There's no point breaking ourselves now when we live on 60 years. Enjoy your entire life. That is what a new life through movement is all about. The first thing that I would like you to do is test your range of motion when it comes to a squat. So basically, I want you to stand up and then sit down to wherever feels comfortable. Test your range of motion and see where you get up to. Now, if you can go from that standing position to a full range of motion into the bottom of a squat to then come back up again, excellent. You've got a pretty good squat on you. We need to make sure that movement pattern stays good as we load it up. However, what you might find is that as you're coming down in the squat, you can't achieve 90 degrees range of motion. You find that you come up into your heels, or you find that you tip forward as you're coming down into the bottom of the squat. These faults are really common, and there are some ways that we can fix that to make sure that we can achieve a full range of motion with a squat and then continue on throughout our life. To go back over those, if we are looking at not achieving 90 degrees range of motion, it may be a stability factor that we're missing. In a sense, the body has a point that it gets to where it goes, I'm comfortable, I'm happy here, don't go any further because we're going to get injured. With that, we need to make sure that the body knows it can trust going into a full range of motion. If you struggle to get down to that bottom position, what I would like you to do is lay down on the floor and bring your knee up towards your chest. If you can achieve a full range of motion there without any pain or discomfort, either in the lower back or in the knee, you can probably achieve a 90 degrees range of motion squat. If that is getting stuck, don't worry about it. Again, we can work around it. But if you can get that range of motion, then it means that passively you can achieve a squat. So then actively, we need to be able to get into that bottom position. What I find really helpful for that is sitting in the bottom of a squat using a counterbalance, so something that you can hold on to, or a kettlebell on the floor to sink down into the bottom of the squat. So with that, we sit down as deep as we can get into it. Feet are locked into the ground, the toes are grabbed. The knees drive out slightly, and what I want you to do is pull your bum down, and really focus on pulling underneath. We are making sure that the body knows that, this range of motion, it can be achieved. And with that, as you come out of that position, reset and retest your squat, you should find that you achieve a little bit more range of motion out of it. Always retest what you're doing to make sure it's making a difference. To flip that over, if you find that yes, you can achieve a full range of motion out of your squat, but your heels come off of the ground and that's the only thing that's allowing you to get down there, you may suffer with poor ankle dorsiflexion. Basically what that means is how far your knee can travel over your toes. Two options with this. As a short-term fix, we can put a plate underneath the heel, push the heel down into that plate to then give us some more stability and achieve that full range of motion. Or we can go into a bit of a long-term progression where we use what we call an ankle distraction technique. The ankle distraction technique is where you have a band wrapped around something stable. You put your foot on a raised platform so the band is coming down backwards, and from there, foot stays planted onto the step. You push the knee forward and you should feel a stretch coming out the back of the calf. What this is doing is when you get it in the right place, where it sits on the talus bone, it pulls the talus bone back into its correct slot. It should mean that you achieve more range of motion coming out your ankles. So again, when you go back into that squat pattern and you reassess it, you can sit down deeper while keeping your heel down to the ground. The reason why we want to keep our heels down is because if you come up into your toes, think about all the bones that are in your little toes, well, just in your toes in general. If we're loading up and then going into that range of motion, that's a lot of instability that we're causing there. If we can get our heel planted down, we can create a tripod foot, and that is the heel, big toe, little toe jamming into the ground. We create far more tension, far more stability, and it means that we're not creating a dysfunctional movement pattern. The final common fault that we find is that when we squat down, we fall forward into the body, but the heels stay down. With that, it's probably going to lie somewhere in the hips and the core. So a core stability drill that I like to use for the squat is a dead bug position. With the dead bug position, what you need to do is lay down on your back, arms straight up into the air, and knees up at 90 degrees, toes pointing towards you. From there, we take a big deep breath in and we tense and brace the abdomen. We then take opposite arm, opposite leg, and we extend them and then bring them back in. This works on a full range of motion, but two, it is strengthening the core and strengthening that hip area to extend and come back into flexion again while staying stable. It's a really handy technique, and I would say that you probably want to do 3-4 sets of 5 reps on each side, slow and controlled, and remember to breathe. As we're working through these points, the squat still might not feel super stable, and that is okay. As a couple of alternatives to a regular squat, what we can do is 1, do a box squat, or 2, do some step ups. The box squat just allows us to have a bit of stability underneath us and to work to a range of motion. I use a box squat with a lot of people, not because they can't squat, because it gives us a really good idea of what our range of motion should be. Setting up exactly like a squat position would, you just have the box at whatever range of motion you need to come to. For some people, that's quite high because they have limits in terms of what they can do. For other people, it's quite low because they need that stability point to work out where they get to. If you're hypermobile, I'm definitely not, but if you're hypermobile and you can sit right into the bottom of the squat, but your stability is lacking, a box squat can be a really good way of going, yeah, this is where I need to get to then come back up again. Choose whatever box you need and work out what your range of motion is. Ideally, we're always trying to chip that down a little bit. And if we're not super comfortable in that squat position, a step up is a really, really good regressed alternative to that squat position. For a step up, what I like to do is have the foot planted onto the step, it's gripped in and it's tight, and the weight is over that front foot. We're then going to drive up to a full extension with the leg, hip and core all tight and all as firm as possible, and then we step back down again, keeping the weight over the front toe and lightly touching the floor with the back foot. What we shouldn't be doing on this is completely taking our weight out and then putting it back in again. Always keeping tension, always driving up, and always making sure the knee stays in a good position. With this, you can really strip the weight back, really focus on time under tension, and get a lot out of this and create a load more stability that, even for the most advanced lifters, is probably going to help their squat overall. And that rounds up this video on what to do if we can't squat. I hope that it's been helpful and it's sparked some ideas about how you can improve your squat. By no means is my squat perfect, but I feel like I have quite a lot of tools that I can help people get better on their squats, including myself. I can always get better on squats. If you have anything that you're unsure about in the gym or just in your general movement patterns, feel free to ask, because I'm always happy to help. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you really like it, give it a share. Anything would be massively appreciated, and I will catch you next time.